Hey friends, happy Sunday. Let's talk about creating an overall amazing experience from beginning to end with your decision makers and your event planners for events. And I'm talking pre-event meetings and even post-event meetings. So it's not just discovery call. Sometimes people think discovery call, put together a proposal, put together a contract, and then you show up the day of, you deliver, and then you go home. There are so many ways to continue to serve your decision maker and your audience that are longer term. And one of the things to create a great experience, and the reason this came to my mind is because I was literally doing it today, is a pre-event meeting. Pre-event meetings are an opportunity for you to touch base with your decision maker, let them know that you're excited for the event, and ask how you can serve them in this moment. So in my pre-event meetings, I do a lot of checks, like down to the little details of like, if I'm driving to the event, it's like, where do I park, right? Where's parking? Do I have to pay for parking? Things like that. And also, one of my favorite questions to ask in a pre-event meeting is, when is sound check, right? You have to know when sound check is. You have to know. And also, some events are so large, they actually prefer to do rehearsals, right? They want to walk through, make sure the slides are good, make sure sound is good, and you can have a moment in the space to kind of get used to the stage or get used to the venue of where you're at, because that's really important too, because I practice before events and I know different marks I have, but sometimes I'm in a gym, like giving a school assembly, and that stage is the whole gym versus being at like a teen conference and being on a stage at a university or a conference center. That stage is typically much smaller. So understanding your marks, so really having an idea of, can I get into the venue beforehand, things like that. Also, get their cell phone number if you don't have it already, because you want to text them when you're on site. You want to text them when you're there, when you're on your way, ask if they need anything, create an overall amazing experience. In the pre-event meeting, I'm also asking questions like, who is the tech person, just in case it's a different person, so I can send them my PowerPoint so you can test it beforehand. I always bring my PowerPoints on a zip drive. I always have them in my Google Docs, always have the backup. But I always want to send things in advance. I always ask too, do you have a clicker? Is it a wireless mic? Is it a lapel mic? Is it a handheld mic? Is it a headset? Like, what's the vibe? Because that's going to determine how I practice leading up to the event. And I typically do a pre-event meeting 1 to 3 weeks out. So it just depends on when we schedule it. And I always typically try to schedule it. If I don't schedule it when I get the contract back, it's typically scheduled, like I'll reach out a month in advance before the event and get it scheduled on the calendar. I also ask things in the pre-event meeting, what are some changes that have occurred since the last time we talked, if there's anything. So recently I actually had a pre-event meeting with a high school that I'm going to speak to. And they had told me they actually had a pretty intense tragedy happen within their students. And they wanted me to not only be mindful of that, but maybe make 1 or 2 statements in regards to how to come out of that isolation and deal with those feelings. So that was really important to know. And that's more of an extreme example, but I think it's really important to ask, like, what has changed since last time we talked with the audience, if anything. I think that's really important. The pre-event meeting, I also had another pre-event meeting with another event coming up where I wanted to take some things off of my decision maker's plate, like creating the social media posts and posters for them to hang around the campus. So I took on that responsibility to do them a favor. These are really great things that the pre-event meeting allows you to do, to continue to serve, continue to help, let them know you're excited, and how to make sure everything's lined up for the day so you know exactly what's going on. They know that you're very intentional about it. And then the post-event meeting, right? Like, what do you ask in the post-event meeting? So when we're in the pre-event meeting is when I schedule the post-event meeting. And this is typically 1 to 3 weeks after the event. The sooner the better, but I also recognize that every decision maker and event planner is going to have a different schedule. Some of my decision makers that I've spoken for, like, they take vacation right after events because it's been a lot of work leading up to an event. So they take time off right afterwards. So I want to be mindful of that. So I always put it on their schedule. Like, when does this work for you? And the post-event meeting is very much just a check-in, how I can continue to serve you. This is your opportunity to get testimonials or referrals from your decision makers and your event planners, and also ask for referrals. Like, if they really enjoyed the presentation, if they really enjoyed what you had to offer, ask about coming back again, or, you know, refer another speaker, you know, continue to work them, give them a favor. You know, there's so many opportunities to continue to serve your decision maker after the event and not just at the event and or at the proposal or contract negotiations, discussions, and the discovery call. So the pre-event meeting and post-event meeting give you an opportunity to continue to serve your decision makers and event planners even when you're off stage. I think that's really important. And that overall experience is going to serve you well in being referred as a speaker by your decision makers and your event planners, because these are the things they really remember too. Because it's true that what Maya Angelou said, that people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And that's true of even decision makers, not just audience members. They're going to remember, they'll be like, oh, you know, so-and-so, they went above and beyond. They were checking in with me, which I thought, you know, so oftentimes I've said this to y'all before, is people ask me like, what do you need? What do you need? And I'm like, what do you need? Like, how can I help you? And they're like, well, you're the speaker. And I'm like, so like, what do you need? Like, you're running this whole thing. How can I help you? You know, I don't want them to worry about me at all, which is one reason clarity in pre-event meetings is so critical. I ask all the questions. I want to make sure that everything is so good that they feel so secure about the event. So yeah, that's the lesson for today. Just make sure that you're continuing to create a great experience for your event planners and decision makers pre and post events. That's all today, friends. Go be great. Let me know how I can support you. Happy Sunday.